welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought it would be fun to film with all of you a quick get ready with me using a full face of Pat McGrath. So Pat McGrath is having a huge Black Friday sale on her website. You can get between 30 to 40% off, and there's also some coupon codes that you can stack on top of certain items. So if you are interested in Pat McGrath products, now is a really good time to shop her site. Now, in case you guys are new to my channel, I am a huge Pat McGrath fan. I have the vast majority of her makeup products, all of her Motherships, almost all of her blushes, her foundation, concealer, powder, tons of her lip products, so on and so forth. So I am always very excited about any opportunity to showcase Pat McGrath products. And so I thought today I would put together a look using as many of my Pat McGrath products as possible, and in doing so tell you guys my recommendations on what to pick up during the sale. After filming this video, I will also be doing my annual Pat McGrath rankings video for all of her Mothership palettes. So if you are interested in that, definitely subscribe to be notified when that video comes out. So without further ado, let's get started with today's makeup look. So to start, let's go in with Pat McGrath's foundation. I've kept this box because I just feel like it's so beautiful and luxe, similar to the product itself. Isn't this just so gorgeous? It's a really heavy glass bottle, so it definitely gives you that luxe experience. And I have this in the shade LM13. As you can see, this is quite a liquidy, runny formula. And at least last time I checked, this foundation was on a major sale on her website for like $27 or something. It's usually closer to $60. So if you have any interest in this foundation, I think now is definitely the best time to pick it up. Like, you're not going to be able to find much of a better formulation for only $27. And one thing to note with this foundation is it is a pretty sheer light coverage foundation. As you could probably tell from just how liquidy it is, it puts a pretty light to medium coverage on the face with one layer. And I always like to point that out because in general with Pat McGrath's sort of runway makeup looks, you might think that she would have more of a full coverage foundation, but actually her foundation is very much a medium coverage, maybe even light to medium with one layer. But here we are with one layer of it on the face. You saw that was super easy to blend in. It looks really gorgeous, just provides a little bit of coverage, a little bit of luminosity to the skin. I think this is really great for folks with dry skin like myself. Now, I could definitely just stop here, but I'm gonna do just one more pump to just amp up the coverage a little bit and also just show you guys the finish a little bit more. And in terms of shade match, I would say this is slightly deep for me at the moment, given that we're in the winter time. But in general, this is a pretty decent shade match for me. And I'm using my Sonia G Lotus Series base brush to put this on. So next up we have concealer. I have this in the shade LM10. And I would highly recommend this concealer, even for full price. This is an amazing concealer. It's one of my all-time favorite concealers. Even to this day, I feel like I've tried a lot of different concealers this year, and there's many of them that I've really loved, but this is still my OG favorite. So what's really great about this concealer is it's very versatile and also very high coverage. A little bit really goes a long way with this formulation, but it doesn't look thick or makeup-y at all. So what's so great about it is because it has a lot of coverage, you can really sheer it out and just have a very thin layer on your face. And so that way it gives you that lightweight feel, but also really accomplishes the goal of concealing any imperfections on your face. And I'm going in with my Sonia G Soft Concealer brush to apply this. And many of the concealers I've tried recently are good at one task, but not all tasks. So for example, the Charlotte Tilbury concealer I really love for under eye, but it's not that great for covering blemishes. The Clé de Peau is really good at covering blemishes, but not the best under the eye. But this Pat McGrath one is a really great in-between. It basically does everything pretty well. And as you can see, I'm also using it as primer on my lids. That's also something that a lot of concealers are not very good at, but this one is quite good at. So I went off camera to do my brows, and so now we're ready to set the base. So I have here the under eye powder from Pat McGrath in the shade medium. And even though this is under eye powder, you can use it all over the face, so that's what I'm going to do today. So first I will just go ahead and set the under eye area. And this is a product that a lot of people really love from Pat McGrath, but I have to confess it's not my favorite powder. I do have fairly dry skin, and I find that what's nice about this powder is it does really quickly set your face with just the lightest layer of powder. But what I don't like about it is I think it does kind of dry my face out very easily as well. So if you have a little bit more of an oily complexion, I do think this is quite good. But if you're someone who finds that powder often does dry out your skin, this might not be the best fit for you. It does do very well at blurring the face though. So unfortunately, Pat McGrath still doesn't have any bronzer, so I just went off camera and applied my Gucci bronzer. So now we're ready for blush. So I have a lot of blush and highlight from Pat McGrath. I have almost all of her shades because I love her blushes so much. So I can definitely vouch for her formulas. So just to quickly run through some of them. So she released some of these blush duos that have 2 shades. This one is Venusian Sunrise. I would highly recommend these duos as a way to get 2 shades in one. She also has a bunch of different blush palettes in cardboard packaging. This is a really great deal if you want a lot of colors and if you also want some of her highlighter and you don't want to have to buy them separately. But the packaging, of course, is less nice for these, but I do really find these cardboard packaging palettes to be highly versatile and really travel friendly. In terms of my favorite shades from her, I love Desert Orchid. It's perfect just for an everyday nude look. It's a perfect mix of bronzy, rosy, and neutral. I also really love Divine Rose if you want something a little bit more cool toned with a bit of mauve. Nude Venus is really great if you want a peachy everyday shade. If you have a lighter skin tone, Flirtatious is really gorgeous for everyday neutral. And if you have a deeper skin tone, I would definitely recommend Paradise Venus if you want something more neutral. And Love Struck is really great for a pop of pink. So for today's look, I really don't know which direction this overall look is going to go in. So I'm going to start by just taking some of Flirtatious since it's pretty foolproof. And I'm just going to sweep this on the cheeks. Let me actually go in with my Cheek Pro from Sonia G. So what I like about these blushes is that they're very beautifully buildable on the cheeks. So this is a baked formula. And so you're not going to have an issue of this product building up too quickly. If you're someone who likes to go in with a heavy hand, this is a pretty good foolproof formula. The matte shades leave a really beautiful, just kind of satin matte on the cheeks that's sort of blurring. And then the shimmer shades just add a beautiful additional sheen. So that's a light layer of Flirtatious, and I think you can see it just adds a really pretty healthy flush to the face. I am gonna also just dip in lightly into Paradise Venus though, just to put this a little bit on the outer portions of my cheeks. I do love doing more of a blush draping gradient effect with Pat McGrath blushes. As you can see, this shade is definitely a lot deeper. And then why not, let's also just go in with some Nude Venus as well, just to add a little bit of that shimmer to the party. So I'm going to concentrate this closer to the apples of my cheeks. So I absolutely love this blush formula. It's one of my all-time favorite blush formulas. I would highly recommend this during the sale. Now moving on to highlight, you can also get her highlighters in these individual packages that are the same as the blushes. This one is Golden Nectar, which leaves a really pretty golden sheen onto the... Oh no, it's falling out. Okay, let me just press this back in. Okay. All right, well, this is Golden Nectar. Be careful with this. Make sure it doesn't fall out of pan. That's weird. That's the first time I've had that happen with a Pat McGrath blush or highlight. But I guess I've had this for a little while. So Golden Nectar is really great if you want a little bit of a golden sheen on the skin. I also have Venus Nectar, which is in this trio, and this is really beautiful for more of a peachy sheen. Since I'm not really sure which direction today's look is going to go into, I'm going to first just go in with Venus Nectar since I think this is a little bit more versatile. And I love all of Pat McGrath's highlighters. So this highlighter formula is really great if you want something that's on the one hand kind of subtle, but can also be really built up. I also really love the formulation she has in her holiday highlighters. Those are definitely more glittery and in your face. My all-time favorite highlight formula from her is the Divine Rose highlight formula, but I'm not sure if you can actually buy that anymore. Hopefully she re-releases that at some point. But as you can see, this just gives the most beautiful sheen onto the skin. So now let's get into lip products, and I brought one of each of the different formulas that I have from her. So first off, we have her MatteTrance lipsticks. I would highly recommend this if you're someone who really likes a matte look, but also wants something that's quite comfortable and moussey on the lips. Her formulation is very similar to the Lisa Eldridge formulation in terms of being that sort of very moussey matte on the lips. So it's not going to emphasize your lip lines. It's actually going to make them feel a little bit more filled in. Now, it's not a hydrating lipstick by any means, but if you want something that gives you that matte effect but is still comfortable, this is an excellent formula to try out. She also has various satin/metallic lipsticks. So she has her SatinAllure lip formula that came out with her Bridgerton collection. I would say this is a like, not love. I definitely prefer the Charlotte Tilbury formula and some of my other satin lipstick formulas like Gucci. This one is nice, especially if you want something that's fragrance-free, but it does have that sort of silicone feel on the lips, which is not my favorite. So I would say if there's a really nice shade of this that you can get very cheaply, then it's worth picking up. Like, the formula is very good quality, but it's just not my favorite from her. Then we have her MatteTrance formulas. These are her metallic lipsticks. Now, depending on the shade you get, it might not actually look metallic on the skin. It might just look sort of shimmery. I have this in Skin Flicks, and again, this for me is a like, not love. It's not that hydrating on the lips. It's more of kind of a satin finish that makes your lips look more plumped up because it has that shimmer, but it's not actually going to add that moisture back into your lips. Personally, I just prefer not having shimmers in my lip products, but if you like that kind of look, this is a really solid formula. I have similar feelings in terms of her Divinyl lipsticks. So these are much more hydrating. They do have more of a balmy effect to them and more of a sheer coverage, but they also do have shimmer particles in them. So personally, I'm not the biggest fan of that. There are other balmy lipsticks I prefer, like the Oma Beauty ones. But if you do like that sort of shimmery, balmy effect on the lips, then this is a solid formula for that. Now, my favorite and most used formula from her in terms of lip products has to be her lip glosses. I have like over 10 of these, and I really, really love these. So this is one of my favorite lip gloss formulas. For some reason, I don't mind if these have shimmers in them. I know I just talked about how much I don't like shimmers in the lipsticks, but for the lip glosses, it's totally fine. And these look so juicy on the lips. These do really plump up your lips and give them that hydration. So it's not just that it looks hydrated, it actually will feel really hydrated. And it's very thick and plush on the lips as well. And two of my favorite shades are Secret Lover and Flesh 6. So I love this for cooler toned looks and this for more of an everyday neutral or warm toned look. So let's go ahead and go into Flesh 6. And I actually have 3 different containers of this. I have 2 minis of this as well, so would highly, highly recommend this shade. And you can see just how incredibly pigmented this is. Not all of her glosses are so pigmented. Basically, she has a few different formulas. The High Shine finish, which is what Flesh 6 is the most pigmented. And then she has a Shimmer Pearl finish, which is less pigmented. And then she has a Glitter finish, which is more of like a glitter topper. So depending on your preferences, you can either have more shimmer or more pigment. And I also do really like her lip balm formula as well. I also use that quite often and find that if you get one of the lip balms that has pigment in it, those are actually very pigmented. So now we're ready for my favorite set of products from Pat McGrath, her eyeshadows. So this is definitely what she is most famous for. And I have laid out in front of me all 10 of her Mothership palettes. Because I'm going to be filming that rankings video later today, I thought it would be fun for today's look basically to use one shadow from each of her Motherships. And I'm going to do this in reverse order, starting from Mothership 10, which is her latest Mothership, and going down to Mothership 1. So I don't actually have any idea how this look is going to turn out, but I figure, you know, this will be fun. It's sort of like makeup roulette. Before I go into the Motherships though, I did want to give a shout out to her quad Venus in Fleurs, also known as Voyeuristic Vixen. So by and large, I would say in terms of her eyeshadows, I would highly recommend saving up for Motherships. Those have the best quality shadows in them and the most luxurious experience. Her 6 pans and her minis usually don't have a very luxurious experience, so they're good for trying out the formula for the first time, but once you've decided you're interested in Pat McGrath, I would suggest saving up for one of the Motherships, just because a lot of her quads don't necessarily have that same luxury experience, but do still cost a lot. Now, the one exception is this quad. I would recommend this quad. This one has a really beautiful set of shimmers and also a really creamy matte, and you can get a lot of very beautiful, versatile, everyday, but also super glam looks from this. The only caveat with this is I would suggest, if you're using this, to also pick up her Intensifies wand. So this is a wand that you can use that's basically like mixing medium in a pen, and so it makes it a lot easier to use mixing medium, and that way you can really have the shimmers adhere to your lids. For me, typically when I use her Motherships, that's not really a concern. The shimmers just adhere by themselves with no additional help. But this super beautiful but super flaky shade over here does really benefit from the use of this wand. So that's the only caveat there. In general though, I would recommend picking up this wand, especially if you're someone who likes indie shadows or just really flaky shadows. If you ever use mixing medium and find it kind of cumbersome to use, this will be a game changer. Alrighty, so let's get this party started with Mothership 10. So for the transition shade today, I'm gonna go into this shade over here. And because I'm filming that rankings video later, I'm not going to talk a ton about each of these palettes, because otherwise this will basically become the rankings video. So if you are interested in learning more about these Motherships and how I would compare them, definitely stay tuned for that video. For today, I'm just going to quickly run through them and show you guys the palettes and which shade I'm selecting from them. This is also for me kind of an opportunity to just collect my thoughts about these palettes, given that I have my ranking in my mind, but this is kind of the last chance for these palettes to change my opinions about the ranking. Next up, we have Utopian Dream, and I think I'm going to use some of this shade because I want something a little bit fun and poppy given the red dress that we have on today. And so I'm gonna actually sweep this sort of in the inner portion of the eyes. Look at just how incredibly pigmented that is. And moving along to Mothership 8, Divine Rose 2, I am going to go into this shade. I don't know, I'm just feeling all of these really bright shades, and I'm going to use this on the outer portion. So this is a satin shade, but I like using this in lieu of mattes because it applies really beautifully. And now we have Divine Rose 1, so I'm gonna go into this shade over here and use this to deepen up the outer portion. Now let's take a look at Midnight Sun, Mothership 6. So this might be really weird, but I just love this shade over here, this olivey shade. And I know it's like a totally different color than what we're going for right now, but I'm feeling like taking a risk. So I'm gonna take a little bit of this and just kind of put some of this on the outer portion of the lid. So maybe it'll kind of come across a little bit more just like smoke rather than like green, but I don't know, I just love this shade so much. So we're gonna experiment today. Isn't that shade just so pretty? All right, and now let's go into Bronze Seduction. And every time I open this palette, I just gravitate towards this shade over here. This is by far one of my favorite shades from Pat McGrath. So, I mean, look at that. Look at that shine. Isn't that so beautiful? Wow, so pretty. Every time I use this shade, I'm always happy with the look. So hopefully that's true today as well. I mean, just look at that shine. So now let's go into Decadence, and this is kind of a change in mood compared to what I currently have on my eyes. Let's see, which one of these do I want to put on? I feel like we could use a little bit more smoke, so maybe I'll take this shade, which is kind of a burgundy, and just add a little bit of that in the outer portion. There we go. I like that. Very beautiful. And now let's go into Subversive. This is also a super, super fun palette. Oh man, I love this green as well. Oh, can I do that? Or should I go more in a blue direction? Oh, this has so many pretty shades in it. Let's see. I don't know, I'm feeling kind of spunky today, so I'm gonna go in with this green, even though, again, I don't know if this really fits the vibe, but when else am I gonna put these shades together? It's not every day I bring out all 10 of my Motherships and have them sitting out in front of me. Ooh, okay, that's pretty fun. I'm actually digging that. I think there's enough gold in this that it doesn't look too contrasting, but it also does add a fun pop to that inner corner area. Ooh, very pretty. Look at that shine. Okay, so now we are going into Sublime. And let's see, what do I want to do here? I usually would go in with this glitter topper at this point because I love that. But I'm actually feeling the shimmers we have already on the lids. So maybe it's actually time to go in with some lower lash line work. So I'm going to go in with this shade over here and just sweep this all over the lower lash line. I think this is called Rose Dusk or something. It's one of those shades that ties together a lot of Pat McGrath looks given her love of roses. Ooh, there we go. And then believe it or not, we're already at our final palette. I'm gonna have to go in with some more to finish off this look. But let's see, what do we wanna do with this palette? I think it would be fun to actually go in with this shade over here and put a little bit of blue just in the center, just for some fun. And let me also actually put a little bit of this shade as well, just to add a little bit more light there. But the blue will just be very subtle and fun. Ooh, I don't know, how do you guys feel about the blue? I am digging it. And then with that same mini booster, I'm also going to just take a little bit of that for the brow bone. And I feel like we need some more on the lower lash line still. So I'm going to go back into Decadence because I want to take a little bit of this shade and use it as a deepening shade in the outer portion. There we go. And then I feel like I didn't make full use of Mothership 10 because that's where we started. So let's go back into this and pick out another shade for that lower lash line area. Now, this might be the wrong way, but I'm gonna go into this just because I can't help myself every time I open this palette. This is the shade for me. So let's sweep some of this. Wow, look at that. Isn't that so pretty? So pretty. Oh my gosh. And that does bring a little bit of blue element into this aspect as well. Whew, look at that. Okay, I'm super excited. I mean, yes, this is not the most cohesive look ever, but just look at how many beautiful effects there are on my eyes right now. So I went off camera to add some eyeliner. So here is the final look. So I haven't tried Pat McGrath's liquid liner before, but I do really like her Permagel liners, and this is what I have in the outer third of my waterline. Now, this was my favorite for a very long time. I have since fallen in love with the Sister Anne liners, and I have one of the lighter shades in the inner third of my waterline today. So if you want something that's truly, truly budge-proof in the waterline, I would highly recommend the Sister Anne. But if you are interested in the Pat McGrath, this is probably second place for me at the moment. I have tried Pat McGrath's mascaras as well. I have the Fetisheyes, and I think I have Dark Star somewhere as well. I don't really like them very much for my eyelash type though. They just don't really hold a curl for me. I think a lot of people do like these though, so if you don't have issues with your curl, then this might be a good formula to try out, but at least for me, neither of her mascaras have worked out. So that's it in terms of my full face of Pat McGrath. In general, I would say right now is an amazing time to pick up any of her eyeshadow palettes. I in particular would recommend her Motherships. And then also it's an amazing time to pick up any of the blushes that you might have been eyeing from her. I love all the blushes that I've tried from her, and I also really love all her highlighters. In terms of lip products, I most recommend her lip glosses, but depending on your preferences, she also has other really solid formulas. And oh, before I forget, I just realized I forgot to mention her lip liners. I actually really love her lip liner formula. It's one of my top. I would say my overall top is Natasha Denona, but Pat McGrath is maybe second place for that. So if you find a shade you really like, then that is a really excellent, very long lasting formula that's very creamy and easy to apply to the lips. It's creamy enough that you can also use it as an all over lip color and then just top it with one of her glosses, and that'll make it super comfortable. So that's it in terms of this full face of Pat McGrath makeup. I would love to hear in the comments below what you guys are picking up from the sale. Will you be shopping it? Is there anything you've been eyeing from her line? And also let me know if you are excited about this Pat McGrath rankings video. I do have one that I made a while ago, and that's the video that's on my channel homepage. And so I figure it's time to update that, given that since then I've collected 3 more of her Motherships. So let me know if you are excited about that video. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end of this video, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!